and half of the semester was only in Python. So having done coding, I was at a huge advantage, and the exam went very, very well. And then in the second year, I'm doing a more theoretical course of algorithms. But one thing that I think is very, very useful for everyday life is having done a programming course, because programming, the thing is that you can go between languages. You can go from Java to C to Python, just learning the syntax. But the problem is learning the reasoning, the problem solving behind programming. And unfortunately, that you only get through experience and through experimenting, through trial and error and all of that. So a lot of my friends in my course who had never done any programming had a lot of difficulty in the beginning, because obviously, if you've never done programming before, being introduced to all the programming at university level is extremely overwhelming. So it's always a bit of a shock. And the problem is there's a sort of reasoning behind it. You have to try and break up the problem into, how can I do this problem using for loops or while loops or whatever. You got to find to break it up into problems that you can solve with the computer programming. And if you've done it for a few years, it might become very natural. But in the very beginning, I can assure you that it's very, very difficult for a lot of people.
So, Mike, where did you do your first coding lessons?
I did it in East. Where was that? I think I did a summer. So we did a summer course, didn't we?
Yes.
With Scratch.
We did summer course with Scratch. So you did it with CodEng back in 2015.
Yeah, it was in Montreal, right?
This is so inspirational. Keep talking.
Yeah. So, I remember that. That was a very, very fun summer camp. Programming. You've got to sort of find this mindset, and so you might think, but you're studying mathematics, studying artificial intelligence, so you're obviously going to do these courses. And so in some ways you might be correct, but I've got a lot of actually my roommates who are doing courses in management, who are doing courses in business, who are doing courses in economics. They've actually got a mandatory computer science course, a part of which is learning Python. So even if you want to, if you're just doing coding for fun, or you don't want to do computer science as a full-time degree, a lot of degrees now will have one or two courses in computer science, because now everything is run by computers. So for them especially, it's very overwhelming, the introduction to Python and all that stuff. And so having done this course not only helps you when you start university, whatever course you're going to do, but it might also help you the first year of university, which is by far at least the first semester is by far the hardest and the most emotional and overwhelming. So if you can manage to have a few courses that are relatively easy, having done programming already, then you can get a massive advantage you can have a massive advantage and sort of have a more chilled semester. So for example, in the first semester, computer science, I sometimes had to learn the more complex stuff towards the end. But for the first month of lessons, I could also have not followed, since I'd done everything in coding already. So having done coding helped me a lot, and I'm sure it's gonna help me even more once I go into actually programming complex stuff in Python. And so it's you're doing a fantastic course with Derval. It was a lot of fun. I remember I've still got a lot of the projects that we did together. I've still got them saved, and it's always a lot of fun because Derval makes them very, very fun and makes a lot of games, and you program only a part, but you can see this full game playing. Because I can tell you, some professors teach it in a very, very boring way. You've got to make the calculators, you've got to make an algorithm that sums certain numbers, and there it can get very, very boring. But at least when you're young and with Derval, you do a lot of fun games, which makes it a lot more fun. and less tedious as it can be sometimes with certain professors.
Thank you, Matt. Thank you for that.
So that's my experience with having done coding. And actually, I went to the Silicon Valley trip, which was a lot of fun. If you guys can go, I highly recommend it. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And yeah, just keep following this hobby. I hope you like it, because you will encounter programming sooner or later in your life. So if you start young, you can get a very, very good head start.
Super, that's wonderful.
Yeah, that's,
so tell us about AI at Bocconi and how difficult it was to get
so even my course is mathematics and AI. However, this first year and part of the next year is still very much the basics. So I'm doing a lot of mathematics and and some computing theory. But the problem is because you need the basis before starting machine learning. So I haven't done AI per se. That starts next year and in the third year. But I have started algorithm theory, which is fairly difficult. But if you guys go and study computer science, you'll probably come across algorithm theory. But yeah, so even though I haven't done much artificial intelligence these years, I've done the sort of idea behind it, but I can't say much. While the next year I've got a whole course about machine learning, which I am very excited for. I can't wait for that course. And yeah, so for now it's just a lot of mathematics and a lot of computer science, but you obviously need the fundamentals before diving into artificial intelligence. Awesome.
And which languages are you working with?
So we did C in the first semester and Python in the first and second semester. So obviously the one that we use the most is Python, even though it is the slowest programming language.
Okay.
For now, it's still very, very enough to do the algorithms that we make.
Super. Do you want to take questions? That maybe kind of
whatever questions. Yeah.
I know some people had some questions. I'm going to ask Santiago because he already was saying that he had some questions for you. So Santiago, over to you. Do you want to turn on your camera, Santiago, if your connection is working well enough?
Yeah, it's working. So mainly my question was about like the application process towards university, because like I'm already thinking about applying my application to some like, I would say very big. My dad went to Bocconi, by the way, and he said it was not like very easy at the time. It was like, I don't know, 1992. It was not easy at the time to enter the university. So like, I wanted to know what was the process behind like applicating for the university, like if there was like some prerequisites or if you had to prepare like in high school.
Applying to Bocconi or to apply in general to universities?
I guess both.
Okay, so I'm not sure what school you do, but Bocconi, all they really care about is relatively good marks in the final 3 years, and a very good mark in the entrance exam. So if you want to get in, you have to do an entrance exam in Bocconi, which is a little bit of a pain, but unfortunately you have to do that. So obviously they want the cover letter and your CV and all that and the typical stuff. But for Bocconi in particular, you need to do an entrance exam. For the other universities that I applied to quite a few in Holland, quite a few in England, and some in Scotland, and that's pretty much it. And in most of them, it was just put in your CV, put in your final marks. Especially in Holland, you get accepted very easily. Holland is a fantastic place now that the UK costs a lot. Holland, if you want to study in English, is a fantastic place because they're very cheap. The universities are extremely good, and you can get in quite easily. However, a lot of my friends went to Holland. However, I've heard that during the first year, it's extremely intense because obviously since they accept everyone, they want to sort of filter out the people who are just there not to study. So in Holland you can get in very easily, but then you have to work a lot in the first year. In England you have to go through UCAS, which is a very easy website to use, and the good thing about that is you can apply to any universities in the UK through that website.
What was it called again?
UCAS. I think something. Yeah. Let me check. UCAS. I think. Yes. UCAS. UACA. This one. I can copy the link for you. Here you can create your link, and so you only have to upload all the documents once, and all the universities which you apply to will receive them. You can also, through UCAS, you can also make a reference letter with one of your professors. You can ask them to make a reference letter. And so, but the problem with the UK is that it costs a lot. So I was accepted in the universities in the UK, both England and Scotland. However, they cost 3 times what Bocconi costs, and Bocconi is not cheap. So actually, Bocconi is one of the most expensive in Italy. So England was for me off the table. So those are the universities that I found. Bear in mind that I was looking for universities that were either applied maths or artificial intelligence. So Bocconi 1 is a bit of both. There was a very interesting course in Groningen in the Netherlands that was completely in artificial intelligence. However, for that one, you also have to do an entrance exam, unfortunately. And all the other ones that I applied to were for applied maths. So if you do want to actually go and study artificial intelligence, one way to do it is either study computer science with your bachelor's, or study applied maths and then go into a master's of artificial intelligence, because the bachelors in artificial intelligence are very, very few. So in all of Europe, because I was going to stay in Europe, I couldn't afford to go anywhere else. In Europe, there were 3, maybe 4 of them, which I applied to 2 of them. One of them was Bocconi, the other one was in Groningen. There were other 2, but they weren't very well known, and the courses didn't seem too great. So it didn't seem that it was worth applying to those. But those are the
Thank you for
tips.
that. Thanks, Matt. Let's see, Santiago, I know you got more questions, but let's see if there's somebody else and we can come back to you. I know you have a list as long as your arm. Does anybody else want to jump in there? Stefan, I see you raise your hand. Go ahead, Stefan. Yeah, let me see if I can turn off my microphone. Go for it. Do you want to try now?
So
it's not going to work.
You can maybe try and write it in the chat.
Yeah, just write it in the chat. Sorry,
I'll
Stefan.
give you some time to write the question in the chat.
Yeah, exactly. Thanks, Matt. Okay, while Stefan's
but also
doing
go to the room and talk from our microphone.
That's also true. But yeah, I guess we're being socially distanced here. Anybody else want to ask a question? Pardon? Thank you. Anybody else got any questions? Thank you, Lorenzo.
What is the age average in this class now, Daryl?
That's a good question.
Is it still very high? Or are there a lot of young people now in the senior?
We've got some young people. We have Max and we have Sylvia, probably amongst our youngest, and Nikki. Max, I'm going to embarrass you and ask you, what age are you?
12.
12, okay. Do we have anybody younger than 12?
I'm 11.
You're 11, Sylvia's 11. And
Oh,
also,
fantastic.
yeah, and the
A wide range of...
yeah, I think the eldest is probably, I don't know, let's see, Ariana, are you 18 yet? 17?
I'm 14.
Oh my goodness, I always think you are older, you're so mature. So who do we have who's already, let's say, 16? Do we have any 16-year-olds? Maybe not? Maybe
I am.
Oh, we do. Oh, Dimitar is 16. Okay. Sasha? Not sure what age Sasha is. Okay, so that's really kind of the age group here. So from 11 to 16 and everything in between.
So what is easier between C and Python?
Yeah.
Well, 100% it's to start off is easier Python. However, Python is programmed in C deep down, so Python is very, very more user friendly. With C, you have to. The complication comes because you're sort of lower down, if that makes any sense, in the computer. So you're closer to the memory and to the CPU, and so if you do want to optimize your memory usage or CPU usage, it's usually better to go in C, because Python does a lot of stuff underneath that you don't see, while C you sort of get a more hands-on. But the problem with C is, because of this, there's a lot of things that you have to do extra compared to Python. So for example, you have to be careful of what your variables are called, and you can't do specific operations on variables, and you have to be careful because the syntax is extremely important. You also have to, so for example, if you're creating an array, you have to create space in the memory for the array and then add all the elements in the array. And then once you're finished the program, you have to remove the array and clear the memory. It's all of these things that, I mean, once you learn it, it's not that hard, but it does add a level of complication.
That's awesome input. I mean, when we're teaching variables at the very beginning, we say, okay, it's a space in memory where we store data, but then stop, right? Then we never look back at that issue. We never think more about what's in that box and about clearing out that box. So that's pretty cool that you're actually seeing that when you're working with C. Interesting.
Yeah.
Good question.
So,
good question.
Usually in a computer science course, if you're learning the basics of programming, you usually do C before Python, because but then once you get to Python, you do everything in Python. It's so much easier. There's a lot of things for you. It creates the memory, it deletes the memory, all for you. You don't have to worry about that.
Yeah.
And so to start off, Python is much better.
Good.
But I mean, once you learn how to solve problems through Python, going to C, you just have to learn how to implement what you did in Python in C. So it's much easier in Python.
I'm going to ask another question, then go back out to our audience. Was there anything in your CodEng courses, and including the Code Camp, that inspired you to go for AI specifically?
In coding, I remember the Silicon Valley trip was also talking about, because I went when I was just about to apply to university. So I think the summer before I would have started applying to universities, and there were quite a few kids of my age, and so they'd all come from different backgrounds, and so a lot of them had already done, some artificial intelligence, some programmed stuff. And so we sort of talked about what we were planning to study. And so then artificial intelligence came. I got to know artificial intelligence. And then more and more I dived into sort of simple online videos. And then, programming and coding, sort of linked everything together. And then artificial intelligence came the way I wanted to go.
Awesome. I do remember when we visited Google, they did talk a lot at Google about machine learning. And
especially Google. I've still got my notes on my phone of like some books that the Google guide had suggested for us to sort of learn artificial intelligence to be eventually hired at Google. Or something like that.
That's awesome.
I was looking at my notes the other day, and there was these two books which I haven't bought yet, but maybe once I start my courses in artificial intelligence
next year,
it might not be too bad to get studies.
Yeah, and he studied artificial intelligence in the Nordics, was it? In Sweden?
Yes, I don't remember where, but I remember he did study artificial intelligence. I don't remember exactly where, but he was specialized in artificial intelligence.
Yeah.
And then also artificial intelligence was a lot on the news. I remember, with the what was it called, Cambridge Analytica.
Oh, yes.
With Trump, the voting for the 2016 presidential election,
And
those old social media, artificial intelligence, all came up in the news, and so then I also got exposed to that part.
And the call we had with Greg Tarr, do you remember that call? And he was.
Oh yes, as well. Greg Tarr won an award for doing some a course about. I think it was deep fake recognition, right?
That's right, and he's steaming
and so he won an award for the most efficient algorithm to debunk deep fakes, which we can see. We have seen quite a few deep fakes running around the internet now.
Yeah, BT Scientist of the Year award, and now he's steaming ahead with his startup, got his funding, and he's making those things happen. So that's wonderful to see. Very inspirational. Have we any questions? Let's see, Susan, do you have any questions, either from coding point of view, or Silicon Valley trip, or the AI Bocconi side? Have you any questions?
No, I don't have any questions.
No questions at this time. Let's see, Ariana, any questions for Matt? Putting you on the spot here.
No.
No. Okay. And before we go back to Santiago, because I know he has more questions, does anybody else have anything to ask Matt specifically? They're all a bit shy, I think, Matt. You're intimidatingly good. Impressive. Santiago, I'll hand it back to you for a couple of more of your questions.
Does the course you follow, does it mainly is it only lectures, or does it also include more practical stuff where you go maybe do some, I don't know, you do more practical stuff, or is it mainly just theory and studying and just following lectures?
So my specific course so far is very, very theoretical. It's so for example, I'm doing a course on algorithms now, which so I've done the whole semester basically without touching a computer. Believe it or not, I've done a whole course in algorithms and computer theory without touching a computer. I mean, obviously, I did use the computer to implement the algorithms, but it wasn't mandatory to ever use a computer. So I write the exam on paper. I'm not allowed the computer during the exam. So it's very, very theoretical. If you want to, you can implement the algorithms, because what the professor does, he sort of writes it in pseudocode, which is basically a way of writing all the instructions line by line, but without the correct syntax of programming. So if you want to, you can make it more practical. In the first semester, we had a course which was entirely practical. It was Introduction to Programming. So that was all practical. So you just did exercises and exercises and exercises. But for a lot of the maths and a lot of the other subjects, it's still very theoretical. Even compared to some of my friends who are doing engineering in the Politecnico here in Milan, their versions of maths are much more applied than mine. So I'm doing my course so far is very, very theoretical. So it's the first year is you can't distinguish it between a applied maths course. It's just applying maths theoretically to a lot of different branches of science. So I've done some economics. I've done probability. I'm doing physics now. I'll do physics again later on. I've also done a lot of maths, so algebra, analysis 1, analysis 2. So bear in mind that my course, you only do start the artificial intelligence the second semester of the second year. So until then, it's an applied math course.
And what is the split boys girls? Just out of curiosity.
Oh, in my course, there are a few girls, so it's not completely boys, but it's definitely not even. So I was surprised, but I would say maybe 60-40.
That's great.
Maybe more 70-30.
Okay.
Something in between like that.
And how
so
many
you can tell
students?
there's more.
How many students are we talking about? How many people in the course?
About 100.
Okay.
So it's
That gives a good
exact
idea.
number. So the percentage is the number.
Good to know.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So my course, actually, I'm the second year in which my course has started. So
It's a new course.
there isn't anyone that has finished my entire course. So there's no one that can tell if the course helped them in the real world or not. But I'm enjoying it a lot. So I'm sort of the lab rat in this experiment, and yeah.
I went to visit a company when I was in San Francisco last month, a company called C3.ai, and they're also based here in Italy. And after attending their conference, which they talked about an introduction to enterprise AI, deep learning, machine learning, and so on, I got an email offering me a job. So just to give you an idea, huge demand, not just in the Bay Area, but even here on that company C3.ai, looking for people also in Italy. So bear that in mind.
Yeah, well, Bocconi does keep saying that my course was entirely created through demand. So a lot of companies wanted the people that follow my course. But bear in mind that I've got a feeling that my course is extremely good at giving you fundamentals in mathematics, in physics, in computer science. We'll do some artificial intelligence, some economics, some finance. You get very good fundamentals. However, I feel like that my course has to be paired up with a master's somewhere. So I'm not sure, Santiago, I'm not sure if you've thought that far yet. But bear in mind that my course, once you finish it, you haven't got that much practical stuff that you can implement. So I would think that you need a master's after it. Well, a lot of my friends here at Bocconi were studying management, who were studying finance, who were studying politics. They learn a lot of practical stuff, and so a lot of them go straight to work after the 3 years because for them experience is more important than theory. Yeah. So
maybe an internship would help, some kind of a practical internship. Yeah. Go Santiago.
Exactly.
Go first. Just watching our time there. Go ahead, Santiago.
I really see your point, because even back then, my dad, just as soon as he was done with his course, I think it was like economics or something. I'm not really sure. I haven't seen like his degree, but I remember he was like, as soon as he finished university, he was like, people were so much demanding for like people who were graduating in that sector that like he got a job as soon as he like finished university. Like I think he was working at like Philips and Morris, like the ones that make the cigarettes, like their business department. But it just really goes to show how much a lot of these faculties are made just for like demand for that specific sector.
Makes sense. Yeah, adapting to the needs of industry. Excellent. Matt, it seems like we're going to need to call you back. Have you come back next year when you've done a couple of semesters?
Yeah, when I've done some artificial intelligence. On AI? Unfortunately, it'll be the second semester of next year. So it'll probably be this time next year. But if you want, I can also do another call-in next semester. But I won't have much artificial intelligence to talk about.
Well, this group is finished now after Easter. We've got 25 lessons, and then we're finishing up, and then we're running a number of code camps. We're going back to the Bay Area. Of course, our 2020 trip was cancelled, so some of these guys had to give back their deposits, and they're now more than ready to go again. We might even do 2 camps to Silicon Valley. We're doing a space camp to US.
I saw that.
Yeah, that's going to be awesome too.
That sounds really cool.
Yeah, so you learn how to train as an astronaut, and there's a whole Netflix documentary about it called The Mars Generation. So it's based on Space Camp, and so there's a lot of interest for that, and so that's going to be a new offering. As you know, we just came back from Expo Dubai, so we're kind of trying to be the window onto the world for these aspiring coders here in Varese, from a range of different schools. Santiago's from Ferrara, Sardiana, Susan, they're the European school. Lots of European school students here. We've got some Scuola Manfredini students as well. So we have a bunch of different schools represented, and we hope to continue to be the window onto the world, at least the tech world, for these guys. Matt, a sincere thank you to you for coming to speak to us. I'm just going to do one last reach out. Anybody else, any more questions? If they wanted to write to you, Matt, like I know some of them might, for example, Santiago, if they wanted to.
Yeah, sure. I'll write my email.
You put it in the chat.
In the chat.
If there are any specific questions as they get closer to university.
Exactly. If you've got any questions regarding university applications or my course in specific, I can answer some emails, no problem.
That's really much appreciated. Great. We have Boris dialing in after Easter. I don't know if you're still in touch. And he's studying in Amsterdam. He's already attended the expo trip. He's coming to Silicon Valley, and he also wants to do the space camp. So we need to give him a gold card membership at this point.
For CodEng. Those trips are fantastic. I did Silicon Valley, and was it 2019? I think it was.
That's right. That's exactly the last time we were there.
It's a fantastic trip. It's an amazing opportunity. If you guys can do any of the trips, I'm sure the other ones are just as fantastic. If you can do them, they're fantastic because it's once in a lifetime.
Thanks, Matt. Really appreciate
Highly recommend.
The endorsement of CodEng. I'm delighted that it's helped you in some way, some small way, at least in some way, to inspire you to go in the direction you're going. We wish you continued success. You are a wonderful role model for this team, and we look forward to talking to you again next year. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Take
Bye,
care.
everyone. It's been a pleasure.
Bye, Matt. Thank you so much.